If you've never programmed with R before, then your first question is likely to be, how do I even get started? Do I have to install something? Does it work with my operating system? Well, in this video, I'm going to talk you through 3 different ways of getting started with R, and I'll weigh up the pros and cons of each. If you're new to this channel, hey, my name's Lee Durbin, and I help data practitioners break free of spreadsheets and advance their analytical careers. I'm really passionate about R and open source, and I share a lot of what I know right here on this channel. So if that interests you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Alright, let's talk about the first way that we can get started with R. So the first way is probably the most common way of getting started with R, but of the 3 ways I'm going to talk about, this is the only one that actually requires you to install anything on your machine. To do this, head over to rproject.org, I'll put the link in the description down below for you, and you'll find a link to download R for your operating system. You'll see there are options there for Mac, for Windows, and for Linux. Simply follow the instructions, and before you know it, you'll have R ready to use on your machine. And of course, if you didn't already know this, R is completely free to use. You don't have to pay anything. Now, whilst technically you can write and execute R on your machine at this point, it's going to be way easier to do if you use something called an Integrated Development Environment, or IDE. If you've never used an IDE before, well, think of it like this. If you needed to write a document on your computer, would you rather do that using Notepad or using something like Microsoft Word? RStudio Desktop makes writing R code easier in the same way that something like Microsoft Word makes writing documents easier. Unlike MS Word, it's completely free. So head over to posit.co/downloads/RStudio Desktop. Again, the description box down below will contain the link to this. In fact, if you head over to that page, there are links there to download R and RStudio, so you could just go there and get both of these things at the same time. Once you've installed R and RStudio Desktop, then you have everything that you need to easily write R code. Congratulations! Now, the main advantage to following this method to use R is that all the work that you do with R will be stored right there on your machine, as well any of the data that you're using, right? It'll be secure there on your machine, your local machine that you're working on. Also, you have unlimited use of the RStudio IDE. There are no caps on how much you use it. It's a completely free piece of software. The downside of this is that you do need to install some software onto your local machine. That can take a little bit of time. And also, you may be working somewhere where you can't actually install things on your machine. You don't have the admin rights to do that. So that might be a barrier as well. Anyway, if you thought that was a fairly easy way of getting started, well, the next way is even easier. So sometimes you don't want to install new software on your machine, at least until you've tried it, or as I said, you literally can't because of perhaps where you're working. Whatever the case may be, if you don't want to or you can't install something, then the best alternative is to use Posit Cloud. So Posit is the name of the company that makes RStudio Desktop, and they have a cloud-based version of that IDE called Posit Cloud. All you need to do is head over to posit.cloud, again, link in the description box, create an account, and you're ready to start writing R code. Once again, you don't need to worry about cost because Posit Cloud has a free option. And it's not like it's a free trial, it's literally free forever. There are some caveats, the main one being that you can only use it for 25 hours a month. You get 25 hours per month of compute time. But when you're just getting started with R, that is more than enough, I think. Okay, so the advantages of following this method of getting started with R are pretty straightforward. You don't need to install anything, you just literally create an account and you're good to go. Plus, Posit Cloud has a free option, so that added convenience doesn't come with any extra cost. The disadvantages of this method is, as I said earlier, there are some restrictions to that free tier, but the other issue is that if you want to work with any data files in Posit Cloud, then you need to upload them into the cloud. And if you're working with sensitive data, for example, you might be a little uncomfortable loading it to Posit Cloud, even though it is completely secure and it is attached to your account, so only your login will be able to access those files. You might not be comfortable with that, or your employer might not be comfortable with that. Okay, let's move on to talk about the third and final way of getting started with R, and in my view, this is the easiest way to get started with R. Even easier than just signing up with Posit Cloud. And just like with Posit Cloud, you don't need to install anything. Okay, so this approach is so easy that you literally just need to navigate to a website. The website is webrwasm.org/latest, and the link will be down in the description box down below. But if you navigate to that page, you can just start writing R code right away. There's nothing else you need to do. Just go to that web page and you can write R code and execute the R code. This is called WebR, and WebR is still somewhat new, so it's still kind of under development, but it works absolutely fine. Just like with Posit Cloud, you can upload files into WebR to work with them. Unlike Posit Cloud, if you close your browser, then you will lose all of that. But there's no limit to how long you can use it for, so essentially it is completely free with no strings attached. So the advantages to using WebR should be obvious. You don't need to install anything, you don't need to create any accounts, you just go to a web page and then you can start working with R. So the barriers to entry are, well, non-existent. The disadvantages of WebR are that you will not get the same features as using an IDE like RStudio Desktop. It's much more stripped down than that. And also when you close your web browser, then you will lose your work. So WebR is great for tinkering with R, for just kind of playing around with it, but for doing serious work, it's not ideal. Okay, so these are 3 entry points for getting started with R. You can download and install RStudio Desktop, you can create an account on Posit Cloud, or you can just navigate to WebR. All of these options are free, and the one that you choose to use will just entirely depend on your circumstances. Whichever road you go down, good luck on your R journey. And stay tuned to my channel for more guidance along the way. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.